Sharon, Mark's mom.
I'm Jason, his dad.
So Jason and I moved to Frederick in 2008. We bought our first house, and shortly after that, we found new life, and we fell in love with the church, made some really good friends, and I guess a year later, we got a call from some of our friends, Brett and Kim Hess, and she was a little frantic, and she said to me, my kids are sick, and we're supposed to be hosting these choir kids tomorrow, and I don't know what to do. Is there any chance you guys could host them? And I'm like, sure, of course. So the next day, we go to meet the choir, and one of those children was Mark, along with Benja and Marvin and Sam, and one of the hosts, Paul. And they came and they stayed with us for a week. It might have been 2, I don't remember, but they will go back and forth between different host families. And we ended up doing this for 6 months. And over the course of that 6 months, we really got to know Mark and find out about him. And he was 8 years old at the time, sweet little boy, and we absolutely fell in love with him.
So we would take them to their shows while we had them at home hosting them. And this one show in particular in downtown Frederick, it was standing room only, and I was standing in the back of the church, and Mark did a solo piece, and it melted my heart. Tears in my eyes. I left the church wanting to make him my son, and I went home and I expressed my feelings to Sharon. I'm like, hey, what do you think about adopting Mark?
It's like, let's do it. I always wanted to adopt. We didn't have any children at that point in our lives, and it seemed like a perfect time. So we reached out to Daniel, who was the head of the choir, and we said, what's Mark's story? Like, is this even a possibility, or are we just crazy? And he's like, Mark's father passed away when he was 3, and his mom basically gave him to the orphanage to care for him. He had older siblings who kind of fended for themselves, and I was like, okay, could you reach out to his mom? You think she'd let us adopt him? And so he did. He reached out to Jennifer, and she said, well, they sound like good people. I want to meet them now. And I was like, okay, well, we're here and she's there. I don't know how that's going to happen, but, let's do this. And so we started to pray. And during that time of prayer, God gave us little steps, and we began the adoption process. And for the next 6 months, we did our home studies and all our paperwork, and we started everything here with our courts. And then it came time for them to go home, and that was really sad.
It was heartbreaking. I didn't want to let them go. I remember our little house close to downtown Frederick, pulling him into the spare bedroom and asking him if he was sure that he wanted to come back to America and live with us. And he said he absolutely did. And I didn't know when or how I was going to get him, but I promised him I was going to Uganda to get him, and I knew I was going. And here he is.
So I'll never forget that day, January 20th, 2011. We drove Mark and the other kids from the choir to BWI Airport to say goodbye, and we didn't know when we'd see him again, but we trusted that God said he was our son and that he was going to work it out. And it took a year. It took an entire year. We kept on living our lives and working and doing the adoption thing. And we got a call in December of 2011, and it said, you're needed here for court on January 30th, 2012. So we booked our tickets and headed to Uganda for the next 8 weeks. And when we got there, it was nighttime. We settled in, and the next day we got to get to the orphanage. And it had been almost a year at this point that we'd seen Mark, and he just turned 10. And so we got to see Mark, and pretty much right after that we went to the embassy. And
I just want to back up and say that Mark was the one that opened the gate at the orphanage. If you think of what a compound over here looks like, it was like a little mini compound, and it was gated for everyone that lived there, safety. And like Sharon said, that day we traveled to the embassy to get checked in, and from the moment we got in there, they told us we would not leave with Mark. It absolutely wasn't happening. Even if the courts approved it, we would have to make a second trip back to Uganda to get him. And I just couldn't hear it. God gave me this gift of faith and basically just told everybody to shut up that had something negative to say. And by the grace of God, I'll let Sharon finish it.
So I was kind of devastated at that point. I reached out to our contacts here in the U.S. and we had lots of people praying for us. I mean, all over the world pretty much praying for us. And we continued to go to court, of which the judge could not stand me, being an outspoken American woman who demanded that I love this child and wanted him to be my son. He wasn't hearing it, and he said that Mark would be better off to live in Uganda with Ugandan people and for us to support him financially. And it kind of pissed me off, but we knew that God said he was our son, so we did what we had to do. We prayed that his heart would be changed, and we went back to court, and for whatever reason it was changed, and he approved us with a bunch of ridiculous stipulations, but nonetheless he approved us. So we went to the embassy again, and we were awarded a visa for him. This was 6 weeks later.
My name is Mark Benjamin, Mosego, America, and this is my story. When I was 3 years old, my dad passed away. And when that happened, it put a lot of pressure on our family. So much so that my mom had to put me into the orphanage. With 3 older siblings, there was no guarantee we would be able to stay together. And in Africa, there was far less opportunity and likelihood of being adopted. But fortunately, I was able to be part of the Mwamba Children's Choir. We traveled the world performing in different churches. And one of those churches ended up being New Life Church here in Frederick, Maryland. Behind this door is my second grade classroom, and where life started again for me. When I got to New Life, I had to get tested to see what grade I'd be placed in. I actually ended up going 2 grades lower than what I was supposed to be. I had to adjust to a new atmosphere, new teachers, kids, and I had to learn more English than just what I knew. But I was thankful I already knew some kids in my class, and that made it so much better. Middle school was a challenging time for me because, as you know, like every other kid, they're trying to figure out who they are and going through different stages of their lives and trying to fit in. But one thing that got me out of that mindset was my love for sports. I played basketball, and that was a fun time for me. I got the privilege to play middle school basketball while I was still in elementary school, which many kids don't get that opportunity. So I was very proud of myself. My parents have sacrificed so much, and one of those sacrifices being we had to move from Frederick to Walkersville so I could play high school football. In the beginning, learning how to play football was a challenge, but I got the hang of it real quick. Coming from a country that didn't even know what football was, I picked up the sport pretty well. I mean, I grew up playing soccer, and it's funny because when I tell people that, they're shocked. My freshman year of high school was challenging because I was trying to fit into the high school. But football was my go-to, and the end of my JV season was pretty epic for me. I moved up to varsity, which was a very cool moment for me. It showed me that my hard work had paid off, knowing that the coaches had seen that and were giving me a chance. I was lucky enough to play 3 years of varsity football.
Down.
That's what.
We're done.
See you move a mountain, and I believe
again. You made a way where there was no way. And I believe I see you do it again. I see you move. You're moving mountains. And I believe I see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way. And I believe I see you do it again. I see you move. You move a mountain. And I believe I see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way. And I believe I see you do it again. I see you do it again. Whoa.
Perfect. Got it. We did it. Go team.
We all go through struggles at some point in our lives. We have to know that those struggles can only make us stronger. I come from a pretty rough background, and I'm very lucky to have a family that I do and loves and cares for me deeply. My story has always humbled me, myself, because I don't try and put myself higher than anyone else. I know where I'm from. We are never gonna be done with struggles. I'm even going through a block in the road right now, but I know God is and will do it again like He always does. I want to tell any kid out there, don't give up, don't lose hope, because you never know what will happen. I definitely did not know I will end up where I am today. Never in a million years. But here I am. Because two people who I now call mom and dad took a chance on me and made me their son. Hope lives in all of us, and God will do it over and over again.